Row 18, plot 20.
Hey everybody, welcome to Now It's Dark. I'm Jim. I just watched a movie called Suitable Flesh. This is a movie that was adapted from an H.P. Lovecraft film, or short story from 1933 called The Thing on the Doorstep. And this was a really great movie. It's about a psychiatrist who becomes obsessed with one of her young patients, who she later discovers is linked to an ancient curse. Directed by Joe Lynch, written by H.P. Lovecraft, gets a credit, and Dennis Paoli, starring Heather Graham. It was very, very cool to see Heather Graham. She's still beautiful and hot and all that good stuff. She plays Dr. Elizabeth Derby. Other notable characters are Barbara Crampton. Yes, that Barbara Crampton, who I gotta say, might be one of my favorite films of hers in recent history. She's kind of in that cameo status, but I would say this was kind of like a starring-ish type role. She plays Dr. Daniela Upton, and Upton is kind of like an Easter egg. There is a character, Asa Waite, played by Judah Lewis, and I got to tell you, this young man had the role of a lifetime because he is the patient that Heather Graham's character becomes obsessed with. And yeah, let me just say, some shenanigans went downtown the JJ buffet, so to speak, for this character, Asa White. And Bruce Davison plays Ephraim Waite, the father of Asa, and he's notable too. He's very recognizable. He's been in a lot of stuff. Um, so this movie, being an H.P. Lovecraft inspired film, they do kind of work on that Miskatonic lore. This is definitely within the realm of the world of Miskatonic that H.P. Lovecraft was building. H.P. Lovecraft was building like a whole universe, um, alongside when the Universal monsters were being introduced. I would say H.P. Lovecraft in written book had this massive crossover universe. It's worth looking into. Um, so just some of my notes. This is they have a lot of throwbacks to um, a lot of the Barbara Crampton type movies, and those happen to be some of the H.P. Lovecraft other inspired films, like From Beyond and things. So there's a lot of those kind of tones in this. Um, this is really good. Uh, in that vein, it doesn't have the same nostalgic feel as those movies because they were, from the 80s. But this is a really good modern um, adaptation if you like those Barbara Crampton, H.P. Lovecraft. Like this does fit in there. There's a lot of sex. There's not like gratuitous nudity or anything like that. There's no Brillo. We do get a Heather Graham boob, though, at one point. But there's a lot of sex, and it's kind of within the story, so it's not. I don't feel like it's gratuitous. There's some movies that it's just like a lot of sex scenes for the sake of shock value or whatever. But this kind of works into this thing. So Heather Graham's character, Dr. Elizabeth Derby, she's also written a book about um, body experiences, out of body experiences, and kind of like the movie plays on that a lot, um, where the patient is claiming to have had some out of body experiences and it's freaking him out. And since she wrote the book on it, he went to her for help. She gets kind of like engrossed into this, and she feels that nurture take over instead of common sense, and she wants to help. So then she gets kind of wrapped up into this like weird thing going on where it's a little bit more than just feeling like you had an out of body experience. There is definitely some shenanigans going on, some curse, some voodoo type bullshit where there's transference from one person to another. And if you get to a certain point of these transferences, then it becomes permanent. So, suitable flesh is this entity or person who's like jumping bodies um, through their little interactions or whatnot. Um, he's looking for a suitable new body because yeah, he needs to maintain living. So I'm trying to keep this as spoiler free as I can, because I do definitely think this is worth working. There's definitely some trippy scenes in this. There's also some narration over scenes by Heather Graham and sometimes by Barbara Crampton, kind of like to move forward where that character's at in their head. Um, at first I was like, oh, why are they doing that? It doesn't sound very right. But then I understood, it's like there's not really a scene where they can convey what the person's thinking inside their head. So it worked. I even thought at first Heather Graham's acting seemed a little off. It seemed like it was forced, a little robotic, a little bit, but it definitely improves into the movie. And I definitely was very into this. Like, this is luckily one of these movies where I was definitely kind of interested in, but I like these kind of trippy, weird H.P. Lovecraft adaptations. I've always been a fan of those since I was a kid. Um, some of the things like in this, as far as like gore, there's some gore. There's not like jump scares. It's not like horror in that slasher thing. There is definitely, when there's like these transferences happening, these out of body experiences. There's definitely some audio cringe sounds. Like, if you don't like the sounds of like flesh and bones kind of crinkling, like they do like these transformation scenes where it kind of looks like hands are, I don't know how to describe it. You know what I'm talking about. And then there's a well placed little thing in the first half of the movie that comes back at the end, and it was so subtle in the first half that I didn't think, oh, I got to watch for that, because sometimes it's obvious when they do that, like they drop something in your lap and it's not well disguised, and then it comes back in the end and you're like, see, I knew that was coming. This time I didn't, so I give them kudos for that. I always enjoy when that. So the acting and the story, I kind of want to say this borders on that upper tier B list movie and bottom list kind of like mainstream thriller, psychological horror movie. So it's like right in there. It's good. It's definitely worth taking a look at. You can rent this on Prime, Vudu, but it's definitely worth checking out, even if it's just for seeing Heather Graham in something, and Barbara Crampton for that matter. But yeah, it was a definitely enjoyable ride. There's a lot of things I left out, so you got to kind of check this movie out to see where you can put together some of these bits and pieces. There's definitely some moments in this where you're just like, oh, it's got some good stuff in it. So if you've seen this already, let me know in the comments down below. Try to keep your comments spoiler free. This is like one of those movies where you kind of gotta watch it without knowing what's coming, because then you get the full effect of that scene and that part of the story. So that's going to do it for me on this review. Check back to the channel for all sorts of other great stuff.